Hey guys, welcome back. Hope you all are doing well. This is Mohammad Badruddin back again with another module from Portsfigure, and the module name is Cross-Site Request Forgery, and you can call it CSRF. In few places you may see it as XSRF. Fine. So let's go. We dive deeper into this subject and we see what exactly this CSRF is and what are the conditions we should find out whether the application is vulnerable for CSRF or not, and then we will solve the lab. So CSRF stands for cross-site request forgery. It is a type of attack where a malicious website, email, or other means tricks a user into executing an action on a different website in which the user is authenticated. So this is the most important part, that the user or the targeted user must be authenticated on a site which is going to be targeted by the malicious actor. Fine. So there are three conditions which must be fulfilled. The first one is user must be authenticated or user authentication. So that means that the target website must have a session cookie or some form of authentication token that is automatically included in every request the user makes. So this way the attacker can exploit the user's authenticated session. Fine. So as you can see in this picture, I think this is the best way to explain this. This is a malicious actor. This is a victim. Okay. Now she has an account on a banking website, right? And she actually saved her password in the browser. And whenever she go to log into her account, because the username and password is already saved, or maybe in that period of time when she is victimized, at that instant she is already logged in or log in before some time and she forgot to log out the session, and the session cookie or token is still in the browser's storage. Fine. So, or browser's cache. So what happened, a malicious user sent her a link or in an email, and the email looks very legitimate. So the email contains a link. When she clicked that link, the browser, the request redirect her to another web page. So that page also looks very legitimate, but under the hood, behind the scene, actually one request is made from her browser to her bank account, and that request contain parameters in such a way that request is going to transfer money to the attacker, and all this process is under the hood, so she will not even realize that she is going to transfer $100 to this malicious attacker. Second thing is there should be a motive and there should be some kind of impact, and the request must be predictable. Now suppose that you and me, we both have account on a similar bank. So that means the process for transferring the money from the browser is same for you and for me too. Okay, so we can check out the request parameters, the URL and other parameters, headers, whatever used in that request. Okay, and if we know that we both have accounts in the similar bank, that's it, I can go with that. So this is another thing which is predictable request. So the attacker must be able to predict or forge the request that the victim user's browser will make to the target website. And this can happen if the requests are predictable or can be manipulated by the attacker. Next thing which is really required, and this is must have condition for the CSRF to be exploited, no anti-CSRF protection. I can say even if you have CSRF token, it is not 100% sure that your application is not vulnerable to CSRF, because there could be some implementation flaw. Okay, maybe your session cookie does not tie with the CSRF token, and the CSRF token may be predictable. So if you have implemented CSRF token, the CSRF token must be randomized and unique, and anyone cannot predict that CSRF token. So these three things must be there. So if we scroll down, you can see here how does CSRF work. So these three conditions must be fulfilled, what I explained before. Different sources give you different way of explaining that, but this is actually the same. So a relevant action must be there, and you can read it. There is an action within the application that the attacker has a reason to induce. This might be a privileged action such as modifying permissions for other users, or any action on user specific data such as changing the user's own password. Okay. Cookie based session handling. So performing the action involves issuing one or more HTTP requests, and the application relies solely on session cookies to identify the user who has made the request. There is no other mechanism in place for tracking session or validating user requests. So this is very, very practical, because every day you see this kind of protection mechanisms. Like once you transfer the money to someone else, okay, the application uses different mechanism for your consents. How? Like once you make money transfer request, okay, your session cookie, CSRF token, everything is checked by the application in the backend. But even though it is going to send an OTP, that is multi-factor authentication, maybe it asks you for thumbprint, fingerprint, your face recognition, face scan with OTP also. Okay, so these mechanisms must be there. Third point is no unpredictable request parameter. As I mentioned earlier, that the request that performs the action do not contain any parameter whose value the attacker cannot determine or guess. So for example, when causing a user to change their password, the function is not vulnerable if an attacker needs to know the value of existing password. Okay, so these are the points you should, once you check the behavior of the application, or once you check any particular function like changing the password, changing the email, changing the phone number, okay, at that instant you should analyze the request, that if that request has CSRF token or not. If the CSRF token length is very short, and maybe it's just base 64 encoded with username and the time, base 64 encoded value, or maybe you can predict it. Okay, and if you cannot predict it, maybe the session cookie does not tie with the CSRF token. Maybe there is no multi-factor authentication is there to take the user's consent. So you need to check all these things. You need to analyze all these things with rest of the headers and its values. Fine. Okay. Now there is this example to change the email of the victim. Okay, so this is the request first of all, and in this request you can see there is session cookie, but there is no CSRF token. This is the first point. Second point, to change the email. Okay, if you and me both have account on the same domain, so I can go, because I have account, I can go and try to change my email, and I analyze this request and I see that session cookie is there but no CSRF token. This is the first thing. Second thing is, this request for changing the email is same for everyone who has account on this domain. Fine. So now the request is predictable. The parameters are all there. We know that. And the third one is relevant action. So the relevant action or the impact of the user we can, or a malicious actor can have on the victim, that if I can change the email address, and let's suppose after changing the email address, I go and try to change the password of that user, although we don't know the password of the user, but if we go to change the password of the user, at that instant application may ask, okay, give me your email address, I will send you the link for the for resetting the password. Now, because we already changed the email of that user and we know the email address, we can input that email and because that email is controlled by us, so the reset link will be received by us. Okay, and we can change the password. After that, we can do whatever we want. And that account may contain a lot of sensitive information, PII or maybe PHI, protected health information, or maybe this is the insurance company account or banking account. All these things we will see once we will solve the lab. Now you can read these 3 points that is related to the CSRF conditions and how attacker is going to trick the victim. So you can see this is the little HTML code, and the most important part here is you can see it's creating one form, and this form having one action, and within the action there is a URL for changing the email. Okay, and the method is post. Now in the input field, it creates one input field within the form, and I don't want user see this input field, so I specify the type is hidden, and the parameter name, you can see the parameter name is email, so we put it here, email. Second thing, the value of the email is this, so now here I change the email to something else, which is pond@emailuser.net. Fine, and then instead of showing a button to submit, because this is going to be suspicious for the victim, because he may ask himself like why I should submit something, and what if I click the button, what details are going to be submitted. So because the input field is hidden, we are going to auto submit this form without showing any button. So we put here one script, and within the script we specify document.form, and this is the form ID 0 because we have only one form here, and then we submitted that form. Fine. The attacker may have his attacker controlled domain and the email server. There are different platforms where you may have the temporary emails, and you can use that also. But we will not go in that too much deeper right now. Fine. So we will see that once we will solve the lab. In this video, I just want you to understand what is CSRF, how it works, how we can check whether the application or the particular function is vulnerable to CSRF or not. Okay, so you can also read this. This is very important, and I will highly recommend you to read all of these content. Okay, so that's it for this lab. In the next video, we will solve the very first lab of CSRF vulnerability. Okay, so I'm going to see you in the next video. If you like the content, please like, subscribe and share. See you. Bye.